And so my question here, we can't take these things lightly. And why do we have to move forward without thinking about what the real negative impacts are? Welcome to this episode of Help Me Understand with Dr. Thomas Jeffery. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe, and I would like to hear your comments. Today we're going to be taking a look at a video by Simply Tech that shows robots in action acting as soldiers. Let's take a look at that.
Benefit from robotics and all the ancillary technological innovation related to that for a long time. A leading robotics research and development company in America, they have been exploring how the military can benefit from robotics and all the ancillary technological innovation related to that for a long time. So today, let's take a closer look at this company and its line of robots that will eventually make soldiers obsolete. Boston Dynamics has, over the years, gained popularity by sharing amazing demonstrations of their robots on social media. Even if you're not familiar with the company per se, you'd have definitely seen the video of a dog-like robot being kicked around and carrying heavy loads. The company, located in Waltham, Massachusetts, was initially founded as an offshoot of a research lab that developed robots at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, in 1992. In 2013, the company was sold to Google X, an Alphabet Incorporated.
Imagine that. So let's match the best robotics with one of the most developed AI engines. So what are we going to get? We're going to get, and as we already know based on another video, that they're really interested in sentient robots.
4 years later, in 2017, the SoftBank Group, based in Japan, bought it. When Boston Dynamics first came into existence, the goal was to improve movement and rough terrain capabilities in robots.
The Japanese robotics are at the very top of, number one, how many of them are being used, but also in terms of how they're looking at integrating it into their society. And that's something we are not talking about in America. All we're talking about here is making them soldiers. When you have robots that will kill humans, that concerns me.
Boston Dynamics robots. Over the years, Boston Dynamics have created and tested many bipedal and quadrupedal robots. Some of their most iconic robots are the Legged Squad Support System, or LS3, a militarized version of Big Dog, their first successful quadrupedal robot. This ruggedized robot is designed to operate in hot, cold, wet, and dirty environments. It can maintain its balance with heavy loads on its back under extreme battle conditions.
Okay, and which has use for many things, but yet we have to make it weaponized. Not this one.
Allowing it to be actively tested by the US Army as a squad support element. The next on the list of iconic robots is the Spot Mini, a compact and agile four-legged robot that can scurry around your office, home, or outdoors. The Spot Mini takes the experiences learned by Boston Dynamics while developing Big Dog and LS3 and incorporates them into a quiet, all-electric four-legged robotic dog with astonishing rough terrain mobility and super dog strength.
Even if you were to say this is the type of machine that can go in and inspect suspicious packages or defuse bombs or something like that, it is still constrained to narrow AI. Well, more specifically, non-violent means.
Then there is Handle, a robot concept that was designed for material handling and efficient warehousing. The research led to the creation of Stretch, a fully
That just looks like an ostrich, doesn't it?
automated industrial robot that is currently used for efficient warehouse operations.
It really is amazing to see the level of advancement that's happened in robotics in the last decade and a half. It used to, even early 2000s, the robots were nowhere near as elegant and precise as these are.
Although all these robots have one thing in common, they all act as a force multiplier, allowing humans to step back and allow the robot to do its thing. And as Boston Dynamics produce more and more such robots that slowly get integrated into the civilian and military world, the company has also diverted its attention to ethical programming. In the world of robotics programming, Boston Dynamics is the champion of this type of programming and has heavily—
There we go, ethical programming. There's the DNA, if you will, of these robots and their artificial intelligence. And it sounds like this company is committed to that.
Invested its resources into its research. If you just learned about ethical programming, don't worry, you're not alone. Ethical programming is a set of principles that encourage programmers to be honest and aware of their responsibility to protect human rights when writing computer programs. When it comes to military robots, ethical programming is what will influence robot decision.
Again, we're talking about trying to make a program a robot around something that's not even, I guess, solidified within our society, much less globally. So when we say we're programming it around human rights, whose perspective are the programmers going to take?
Let's turn our attention to the robots that will most likely make soldiers obsolete. Atlas robot. Remember when I said
How are we going to prevent that? Who's going to be the test bed? Now, hopefully not, citizens who are maybe standing up against some or free speech against, let's say, the government. Hopefully, they're not going to be the test bed to find out if humans or if robots will actually fail in protecting humans by not killing them, essentially.
To tell you more about the Atlas robot, well, here goes. The Atlas robot is Boston Dynamics' best product to date. It's also the most complex and technologically advanced robot in its lineup. When talking—
It just seems like bettering society at large might be a better, I guess, use of our tax money if, in fact, it is about researching for robots or researching in the robotics field and artificial intelligence field.
Talking about military robots that can do some actual soldiering, Atlas is perhaps the only candidate in the world suited for it. First unveiled in 2013 when it was starting to learn how to walk, the Atlas robot team has since made great strides. The robot learned to walk just like we all did, by falling a few times before it got it right. And the team—
Something like the dog or the pack mule, I can't remember their names, why would those not be as good a candidates for weaponization as a humanoid, like a human-like robot? There's a bit of, I guess, the ego there that we're the superior, we're the top of the food chain. Then there's something there that we need to get our head around as a society.
Being a paradigm-shifting neural net AI that powers Atlas.
Required for control, perception, and estimation happens on board.
We can use if you want, you could take a robot exoskeleton. You can be superhuman.
This AI has allowed Atlas to become a self-learning robot, as mentioned earlier with the example of walking. Just like a human baby, Atlas's AI trained itself to walk, run, jump, avoid obstacles, and even help to make decisions based on its environment.
What they are talking about is still narrow AI, but it's learning to be more precise in handling stability, in dealing with obstacles, figuring out all of these things. It's what it's saying is that this neural network that they've programmed helps it just like we do. And again, I mean, we only have our own intelligence as a model. And so we're trying to, help create these robots in our image to some degree.
Even though they are still constrained by their programming, they can exercise independent judgment using high-level artificial intelligence. This is the type of robot that will eventually make soldiers obsolete.
You could make a swarm of drones that talk to each other, that were able to communicate through the network and make essentially decisions about how to reach the target. And in this case, what they're saying is to make a decision about that target. Now, what we haven't seen yet is one of these autonomous robots with a weapon. It's all been, search and, identify.
So let's end this video by quickly taking stock of the advantages and disadvantages of autonomous robots fighting wars instead of...
If we think that is, I guess, assumed that we understand the moral and ethical dilemmas at hand, I'm not sure that we do. I'm sure there are people sitting around talking about it, but why aren't we as society, as civilians, part of that discussion?
As great as those advantages sound, there are a few disadvantages to having autonomous robots in the military. The first and most obvious one is that autonomous robots fully rely on their human programming, so they are vulnerable to hacking. Imagine having your army of robots hacked by the enemy and used against you. Now that's a Terminator-style nightmare waiting to happen. Besides hacking,
as these things become more generally intelligent, they're able to modify their own programming, I guess you could call that a hack, to who knows what. And so it's the robots reprogramming themselves, redesigning themselves, an evolution over, so let's say with humans it's taken how many hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. This can happen within years, within a short period of time, that they could reprogram themselves.
However, we as a collective are inexorably heading towards that future. Let's hope that companies such as Boston Dynamics and governments worldwide consider all the possible eventualities and consider all challenges.
In the research that I've done and talking to Generation Z students, this idea that there's this march, this inevitable march of technology that we can't resist, that we can't do anything. When I say resist, I mean that in multiple ways. One is we almost are compelled. There's this need, it seems, for humanity to just want to make technology better or to develop technology more and more and more. And so in this Generation Z research and perceptions of AI, they're fully aware that technology is advancing whether they want it or not. That's just as humans how we are. What they don't know is how it's going to impact them as an individual and society. And so it creates anxiousness. There's an anxiety. There's a tension. And I don't think it's just Generation Z. I think anyone who's even partly paying attention to what's going on should have that same feeling. But I think that we need to do something about it. We need to have discussions. We need to have discourse. I don't expect that everybody, there are people who love technology and who don't see that the dangers that I present, and I enjoy technology too. It's not as if I do not. But I also think that you can be so overcome with just having that God factor that I'm creating something. I'm going to make the first true artificial intelligence. I think that that's something that is compelling for people that are in this field.